Hello and welcome to Findlay Designs. It's been a while since I last done a video. That's because it's been quite hot here in Australia. We had Christmas and I've had a number of different jobs and tasks that I've had on the go. So it feels like it's been forever since I last made a video, but it feels good to actually be in my studio and making again. So this one's actually a commission piece that someone had seen my three-part copper piece in my living area and requested something similar but in a slightly different shape. So this one is square panels, as you can see, 3 of at 70 centimeters by 70 centimeters. So it works out to 2.1 meters long. So it's quite a big piece. And so what I'm doing here is I'm just marking out using a pencil where I want the flow and the curve to happen on this piece. Next I'm using gold spray paint to mark out the flow and shape that I want to achieve. Now I don't need to spray all the board, all I need to do is just spray where the acrylic diamonds are going to go, because when that sinks into the resin you'll get the glow of the gold showing through the stones. So I'm just marking out where the stones are going to go. As this is quite a large piece, I'm actually mixing the resin in stages. So I've mixed up 2 batches of resin to make a start on this, and I'm just going to very slowly create the shape. But I'm working, might not look at it at the moment, but I'm actually working in a bit of a pattern. So I'm going to start with the middle board and just get that copper ready, just covering the board, and then I'm going to do the same with the first board. And then while I'm working on the other board, this is going to be curing slightly. Now there's a method to my madness for this. I want the resin to cure to a certain point that when I move it with my fingers in a little while it retains the shape and the movement. So for the time being I'm just getting the board covered where I want to get it covered using my hands, and I'm just moving the resin around to just get that shape that I'm after. And in between I'm just giving my gloves a bit of a wipe, so one I can pick up the heat gun without getting resin all over the handle, and I don't need to keep changing my gloves because I give them a clean in between. So now I've just mixed up another batch of resin, and I'm now going to do the same with this third panel, just moving that around. So now that we have the basic shape, I'm now moving on to the next colour. Now although this looks like black, it is black, but it's got a hint of the copper in with the mixture. This just, although you can't see it here, it gives it a bit of extra shine when the light hits it and a bit more sparkle, but it also tones down the shade of black because the client didn't want a strong black. So by me just adding a little bit of copper to it, it actually toned it down and made it more like a dark brown colour. So all I'm going to do here, same as I've done with the others, I'm working from the middle board out, and so that by the time I get back to moving it, it'll have cured for a bit. So same thing, I'm just moving around and just mixing up batches as I go. So all I'm doing here is just moving the resins just slightly just to meet the colour without blending it at the moment, because we're going to wait until that's cured for a bit before we actually start blending the colours. Now the centre board here has been curing probably for a good half-hour now, so it's now okay for me to start moving the resin. And when you pull your fingers through, particularly the copper, you can feel that there's a bit of resistance between the colours, and it does take a little bit more of moving it backwards and forwards to actually get that to start blending. But what you can see is you do get the movement remaining in the shape of the resin, so you get that flow feel. Otherwise, if it was to do that when I just poured it, as you can see on this first board, that would just lay flat and you would lose that movement. So by waiting for it to cure for a bit, you can see that the movement stays in there. And as always, I'll just give it a quick zap with the heat gun just to make sure that there's no stray bubbles or anything, and I'll do that periodically as I move along. Now this, I'm just moving the black around just to spread that out, and again, while I'm working on that panel, the first panel is still curing, so I'm working in stages as I mentioned before. So as you can see, that is I'm moving it with my fingers, and it's been curing now for a good half an hour or so. So I'm just using my fingers to drag the resin round and create shape and blend the two colours together. Now I don't want it to blend too much because I still want there to be quite a bit of definition between the two colours. So the main bit of blending is in between the two colours, and again just using my fingers to drag the resin through. And because we've left it for a good half hour or so, it'll retain its shape. And again, as always, just giving it a quick zap to burst any bubbles. Now that I'm happy with the layout, it's now time to add the highlights. So here I've put some of the gold spray paint into this cup with a little tiny bit of mineral turpentine to help break it up, so that it causes like some cells and lacing as the two react together on the resin. So, and then just again using my fingers and dragging the gold through, not worrying too much about it because we are going to cover this with stones and then add some more gold highlights at the end. But again, it's just getting a little bit of shape and movement, and it's just adding a little bit of added interest to the piece. So now it's time to add the acrylic diamonds. Now these will sink down through the resin, and you will get the gold that we sprayed right at the beginning shining through the back of the stone. So this, when the light hits it, you'll get different light refractions and reflections happening as the different changes of light through the day, so you'll get different looks happening with this. I really like using these acrylic diamonds just because of the extra dimension that they bring to a piece. So now that all the acrylic diamonds have been laid, it's now time to add the extra dimension to this in the form of the gold spray paint. So this time still using the spray paint in the cup mixed with a tiny little bit of mineral turpentine. Now you can use white spirits or alcohol, it has the same effect. But what you don't want to be using is silicone or anything that will cause divots in your resin. At least with turpentine, spirits or alcohol, it evaporates and doesn't leave divots in your resin. So just using a stick and moving and putting the gold just on the black side of the resin, because that's where I want the most amount of contrast. So I'm just applying that to one side of the stones, and again I'm just moving it and adding it with a stick and just dragging it through the black just to disperse it a little bit and get a little bit more movement. So I continue with this, dragging the stick through the resin with the gold on just to break it up a little bit until I'm happy with the amount of gold that's being applied to that edge, and then just giving it a final zap with a heat gun. So as you can see, you get nice effects happening with the gold. Now while the white spirit is there, you can actually see that it is creating, it's repelling the resin, I should say, so it does create some interesting effects. But like I mentioned earlier, the mineral turpentine evaporates, so you'll then will still end up with a nice smooth finish on your resin. I hope you enjoyed this video and it's given you ideas for your next resin piece. Don't be afraid to wait for your resin to cure for a bit before moving. I think you'll be pleasantly surprised by the results that you get. As always, you will find a list of the products used in the description below. You'll also find handy links to my other social media channels, plus links to my books, the likes of the Essential Beginner's Guide to Resin Art Techniques and my brand new goal setting and action planner for artists. If you want to turn your resin hobby into a business, then this planner will help you get focused, so you'll find links for that. So as always, until next time, don't forget to check out the other videos in my channel. You'll find plenty of ideas to keep you inspired. So until next time, bye for now.